Stocks closed lower across the board on Friday to finish off the worst year for the stock market since the Great Financial Crisis. With the losses on Friday, the S&P 500 fell 19.4% in 2022, its largest calendar year decline since a 38% drop in 2008. The S&P 500 now stands at the same level as it was in March of 2021. The Nasdaq Composite dropped 33% and stands at the same level it was in July of 2020. Meanwhile, the Dow fell a modest 9% in 2022. However, the bond market suffered through its worst year in modern history. The yield on the 10-year Treasury rose from around 1.5% at the beginning of 2022 and closed the year at 3.88%. This huge move triggered a sell-off across fixed income markets and weighed heavily on the housing market, with the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate finishing 2022 near 6.4%, its highest year-end level since 2001. And in other news, Warren Buffett, the so-called Oracle of Omaha, guzzles 5 cans of Coke every day. Buffett, who drank Pepsi for nearly 50 years before switching sodas, gets about 25% of his daily calories with Coke, cherry Coke being his favorite. And true to form, Buffett puts his money where his mouth is. Through Berkshire, Buffett owns 400 million shares of Coca-Cola, which is worth about $25 billion. And today we're going to take a look at 2 charts, beginning here with the 2-year weekly chart on the spiders, the SPY, and the close on Friday was 382.43. Now, the old channel line, top line moving down through like that, and then the bottom channel line moving through more or less like that. Now, we came up here. We tried to move through the 50 EMA and also through that top channel line, but got reflected back down here. It looks like we're starting to set up a minor bottom and basing here, so there's a possibility that we can make another attempt of a move back on up and say through that 50 EMA and maybe through this top channel line, not unlike here. Again, we had this reflection at this point, came on down, a bit of bottom and basing, and moved up. It got reflected once again at that point, and then down we went. So this is going to attempt something relatively similar, and we'll just have to wait to see if there's enough strength. I kind of don't think so. I think that's a probability, is that we will move up and then get reflected back down, but time will tell. Moving through here, the volume's not showing you too much, but the MAC does. And what it's showing me here is definitely it's strengthening from that level there to this level here. And in fact, there's a longer term bottoming basing, at least by the MAC. Now, the fast line at this point here is under 0, but it is moving close. Right now, it's moving, say, slightly downward, but mostly sideways. And in this kind of a formation, it might have enough strength in order to reflect off of that slow line and make a move back on up. So that would help us bring the price chart back on up to attempt moving through that 50 EMA or that top channel line. You can see it there. You can see it some of the other oscillators, which we'll take a look at. The histogram's not going to show you too much. Price rate of change has been moving sideways for the most part, but perhaps it can gain some strength and break out of this channel. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the RSI is moderate, 44.76. It is going sideways as well, and it might set up for a move above that 50 or midline. You can see here in the stochastic, similar to the MAC, that this fast line is moving mostly downward here, perhaps maybe a 45-degree angle, so downward and sideways. It has come through the slow line, but it might have enough power to reflect back on up. Somewhat similar to what it did in this area here. It reflected back on up. That's a backside spike, and give it a little another attempt at a move on up. We'll have to wait and see. Into the Williams, again, you see a little bit of that sideways movement. We might have some sawtoothing heading on up here. I'm not sure how much strength it'll have. This didn't have a lot of strength with it, so it failed. We'll see where this goes. But that is the probability in my mind, and you'll see that once we go to the daily chart. And now a quick look at the 6-month daily chart on the spiders, and as you can see here, we definitely had the bottoming and basing here, moved on up, got reflected back down, but we're starting to bottom and base in this area here, which means there's a possibility that we can actually gain enough strength to move on up. And let's take a look at the oscillators first here. Volume not showing again too much, but you can see in the MAC that this bottoming and basing here is setting up for a potential move for the fast line to come on through, up and through that slow line, and perhaps up and through that zero line for another attempt. So watch that. You can see these other oscillators similar here in the histogram. Definite bottom and basing on the daily. Moving down, same thing in the price rate of change as well as in the RSI, and certainly in the stochastics looks pretty good, and then also in the Williams. I'd like to see the Williams move on up here more quickly. It hasn't, but I think things are strengthening, and that will perhaps give us an early boost, potential boost in the early part of next year. But keep watching the monthly and the weekly. The weekly still seems to be in control, so watch that closely to see where we go from here. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.